Good afternoon, all of you. We'll start our session. Today's session, we are just continuing where we left out in the last class. That is with respect to your wired LANs. 802.3. That is the standard that has been given by your IEEE. So with that, we'll just start. So this, whatever the slide that you are seeing here is 10 base T implementation. This is the one of the standard Ethernet category that we will be seeing it. 10 is nothing but 10 Mbps of data that it can transmit in the wire, followed by base is nothing but the baseband signal, that is a digital signal, you can just connect it. T is nothing but your twisted pair. See, the example has been given, or the twisted pair, how it will be available, what is this, all these details has been given. So shielded, this is an unshielded one. Shielded means there will be a one particular plastic coverage with respect to the twisted pair that you are having it. So if you have that, that is an additional shielded pair, we'll say. This is an unshielded one. Okay, so this is the LAN cable that we are using it. So the same particular thing has been given. That is Cat5 or Cat6 wires, we'll say it. So that is what they have given it with respect to your twisted pair implementation. See here, fiber with respect to this. This is how it will be. It's a very thin copper wire will be there inside this particular insulated wire, insulated or surrounding with respect to this particular yellow color. Inside that there will be a very thin layer of the copper wire will be there, that is very very thin, very and it will be carrying the uh, data to a larger distance. So that's what we have just seen it in the last class. Yes. Why two wires need to be needed? Because one for sending, another one is for receiving. So just because of it, two fiber optic cables you require. Whereas with respect to your twisted pair, there is nothing like you require two pairs, because already there are n number of pairs available inside the one particular single wire itself. How many you want, you can just use it those particular pairs. So that's how it will be working with respect to your standard Ethernet. Now, with before going to the next particular Ethernet level, that is gigabit or 10 gigabit, whatever the fastest Ethernet that we are calling. Before that, there are certain changes to be need to be adopted with respect to the standard Ethernet itself. That is, yeah, that is with respect to your bridged Ethernet. That is what they would call it as. What is this bridged Ethernet? See, there will be a one small particular um, what do you call, a router type of device will be there. It is not a router, it is a router type of device will be available with respect to your connectivity between two different areas that you are having the LAN connectivity. So between this, see here, this is with respect to without having the bridging network. So if I say there are two different categories are available, two different paths are available, this is, suppose I'll say that this is with respect to the room A or lab A. In the lab A, we have so many systems, they are connected with each other. If you are connecting one more particular lab, say for example, this bunch of group is called as lab B. So with respect to this lab B, so there are certain bunch of computers that has been connected through a LAN itself. 802.3 type of wiring only you are doing it, you are just using it, you are connecting it. If you want to connect these two particular separate categories, and if you are enlarging, or if you are just taking it to too longer at that particular point of time, there may be chances of losing the data. The bandwidth plays a vital role here. So if you are saying 10 Mbps at the end of the particular thing, say for example, if this is with respect to one, and the second system is there, followed by third system, 4, 5, and 6 is there, right? Similarly, you have with respect to B, 1, 2, 3. So the next one is 4, 5, and then once again the sixth system. So from A1, if you are pointing it, or if you are just want to transmit a data from A1 and it need to reach to B6. B6 is the destination and A1 is the starting point of where the data need to be transmitted from. So where it has to be received, it has been received to the B6 computer. Now there is a lot of distance to travel to carry the data. So with respect to this, even if you say 10 Mbps, it can carry. According to this, they say that 10 Mbps of data, you can just carry it in this particular wire or Ethernet that you are having it, right? So, but once it starts from A1, it reaches to A2, there is no problem. Till A6, same particular thing. Once it reaches to A6 also, it will be continuing with respect to the 10 Mbps. But after this, you may not be getting the guarantee that it will be reaching in the same particular bandwidth. There will be a loss of data. Once it enters to the B network, that is B1, if it is going to deal with it, after A6, B1 will be connected, right? So with respect to that, so B1 to B2, and similarly it goes on here, right? So till your A1 to A6, there is no problem. So you can have the same type of or the bandwidth will be retained with respect to 10 Mbps is that 10 Mbps it will be there. There is no problem. But once it reaches to the B region, so here before reaching the B6, it may be reduced to 5 MB of data due to the collision, because it is carrying from one particular area to another area. In the same area, it will be maintaining the same thing. Once it crosses that particular area, then it will be there may be collision may be happening. Due to that particular collision or due to the attenuation that you'll be getting it, or transmission impairments, a lot of things are there. So due to any one of it, you may lose the data. So with respect to that, out of 10 MB, only 5 MB will be transmitted. So once it reaches to your B6, it may be 2 MB of data. This is possible. So once it started, it was 10 MB. Once it reaches to the to the other particular area called as B, once it reaches to that, it will be 5 MB. Once it reaches to your destination part, it may be 2 MB due to the collision. So we don't know exactly where the collision has been happened, whether it is in the collision with respect to your A category or B, where it will be just available, we will be not coming to know. So just to uh, have a notification on this, what we'll do is we'll introduce this particular bridging network. So this gives you which particular division is having or holding some problems, from where it has been coming. So with respect to that, where it has been moving, so then it will be just taking care about the rest of the details. So the collision detection is also very much easier when compared to your without bridging the network if you are just doing it. What the bridges will be doing is a very simple, one particular category from the one category people, it will be just follow, it will be just transmitting the data from that particular end to the other particular thing. So without having any intervention, when anything, the same thing, the same particular data will be flown to the other particular party. So instead of having a long connection, there is a small connection over here. So with respect to this is how the bridge network will be available. Generally, it will be similar to your router, but not the router. So there will be some certain ports available with respect to this. So it will be addressed with respect to the port numbers. Based on the port numbers, it will be just taking care where it is going, from where it is coming, where it is going. So depending on that, it will be just decided with respect to this connection. So advantages is collision can be easily detected. Collision, I'm not saying collision cannot happen. Collision will happen. Based on that particular collision, where it has been went wrong, where I need to just concentrate more on it. So whether I need to take this particular route or some other particular route, all these particular designs will be taken care by your bridge networks. So That's all with respect to your changes in the internet. This is a small change that we need to just go with it. So this is bridges help split collision domain into smaller ones. See, instead of detecting in the 5 particular systems, if this domain itself is divided into 6 different systems, three systems if you are dividing it, and both if you are just giving it to one particular bridge means, at that particular point of time, it will be easy for us to identify from which particular domain your entire particular changes has to be made. 60 students are there in the class. All the 60 students, if they start responding to a particular question, it will be difficult for us. Instead of it, if we just organize an online quiz or something like that, the responses can be recorded. Each responses will be recorded in their with their particular login details. So based on that, we can just judge who has been attended properly, who has not given the right answer, right? So based on, we can just easily understand that. So that is a common thing that we are using here. So it will be combined with respect to n number of domains that you are having. A domain is nothing but a subgroup. That's it. Domain, what do you mean by domain? If you ask me, it is nothing but a group of computers which will be grouped under one particular area, and it will be just given to the outside world. That group is called as one domain. Similarly, you can have n number of domains. So all these domains, it need to be connected to a common particular network called as bridge. With bridging, what it is doing, it will just take care about whatever the details that you are forwarding it, it will just forward it to a nearest network whichever has been connected to it. So that's all it will be doing. It will not take care about the rest of the details, whether the collision is happening or not. It will not be bothered. But for identification, if you subdivide it, if you just multiple divisions, if you are having, means it will be easy for us to identify where that particular thing goes. So that's the advantage of using bridging technique. So we have one more particular concept called as switched Ethernet. What is the switched Ethernet is all about? See, you in your laboratory, whether you have observed it or not during the days when you were attending the lab or not, I don't know exactly. Each of the laboratory will be having one particular switch. They'll say 8 is to 1 or 1 is to 8 or something like that. That means one one input and 8 output ports switches will be available. So 8 output port means it will be nothing but 8 different systems it can communicate with. So each system will be identified with respect to the connection that it is going to happen. So with respect to that connection, it is easy for me to identify what it is going to happen. Whether the system has received the packet properly, data properly or not. It will be easier for us. So for that, switched Ethernet will be just going to deal with it. We have one more thing, one more concept under the switched Ethernet called as full duplex switched Ethernet. What do you mean by full duplex switched Ethernet? So once you say full duplex, at that time you need to transmit as well as you need to receive. Both the things, two wires need to be connected from your two virtual lines need to be connected from your end system to the switch that you are connecting with. That is not nothing but your full duplex switch network. That's all. See here, transmit followed by receive, transmit followed by receive. So it will be available with respect to the Ethernet that you're choosing. Whether you go for standard Ethernet or fast Ethernet, it is all up to you. So whichever the Ethernet that you follow, before going to the fastest Ethernet one, so we need to know these particular changes to be adopted with respect to the existing standard Ethernets. So with this, we'll just move on to the next one, that is fast Ethernet. The name itself suggests that it is faster than your standard one. So instead of 10, it will be addressed with 100. So 100 Mbps, 10 times of that particular standard Ethernet speed, it will be just transmitting the data. Here, for the transmission, it will be using the baseband signal. That is a digital signal itself. There is no change in it. TX refers to your twisted pair. How many pairs you want to have it? We don't know. So n number of cables you can have it. Two wires, category of 5 UTP, that is unshielded twisted pair. Unshielded twisted pair, that is what it will be taking it with respect to this 5. This is category 5 is nothing but CAT5 is the short name given for it. So CAT5 is nothing but 5 different two wires with respect to inside each one of it, 5 different wires you may have it. So that is what it will be meaning with respect to this particular UTP. 5 UTP is nothing but the twisted pair was there, right? This one. So 5 different categories you may have it. 5 different colors with respect to that, it may have the system inside it. So that is what you got this. 2 such wires you require it for your 100 base TX. 100 base FX. FX is very simple. fx is that x is n number of wires it can have it, but generally for implementing this, 2 wires is more than sufficient. So 2 wires of fiber connection you need to have it. 100 mbps of data you can transmit it over that. So the transmission will happen with respect to your digital signal, that too using baseband type of implementation itself. And the last one is 10 base T4. T4 is mentioned, that is 4 wires, 4 such particular UTP wires you require it. So each one of it may be having 3 categories with respect to it. So Cat3 is the one that cable that it will be holding it. Nowadays Cat5 or Cat6 is the wire that we are using it for faster Ethernet. So it has been already replaced by your fiber networking or fiber wires rather than using your twisted pair, because twisted pair, if you twist it in between, you may get a collision because it's an unshielded one. Unshielded one means no plastic is available. If the data is moving in a faster rate at that particular point of time, there is a chances of collision among those particular wires, and whatever the data is there, it may get corrupted. The entire wire you need to just remove it, and you need to just check out how that particular thing how to replace that. For replacing the wire, we have one particular technique. So wherever the starting point is there, from that particular end, if you just leave a laser light, if it is reflected at the other end also, at that particular point of time, no damage has been happened. If the light is not visible at the other end, at that particular point of time, there is a damage in the wire, the entire wiring need to be replaced separately. So this is how we can just identify it, whether the wire is a faulty one or not. So with that, the topologies that we are having is star and point to point. Star is nothing but one particular common point is that from that n number of connections you can make it with endpoints. Point to point, one to one. So that's the two topologies that we'll be using for your fast Ethernet. So this is the summary that we are having it with respect to your fast Ethernet. Media that we are using is Cat5. That's what I said. UTP or STP normally will be using UTP itself, shielded, unshielded twisted pair itself. Shielded twisted pair will be not using it because of the highest cost. Because a plastic coating need to be available with respect to each twisted pair. It may be plastic, it may be anything. Why plastic? Because of the you can use the aluminum foil also for that particular twisting for that shielding pair. So with respect to that, if you use different materials, the cost will be high. So just because of it, we'll always go with unshielded twisted pair. So the next one is fiber. It will be using the media. Here with respect to your 100 base T4, category 4 or category 3 will be used with respect to your unshielded twisted pair. The number of wires that you are using with respect to 10 base TX, 2 wires, 2 such wires. Fiber, it will be 2 only. But with respect to 10 base T4, it will be 4 wires will be available. But the maximum length that it can transmit is 100 meters only. It is not more than that. 100 meters only it will be transmitting. So the next part is block encoding. So with respect to your block encoding, so line encoding and block encoding are different one. Block is nothing but one particular size of that particular data, not the individual bits. The individual bits, you will be having 4 bits at a time, you can transmit it, or 8 bits at a time, you can transmit it. That is nothing but your block. With respect to that particular block, what will be the encoding technique that you are using? See here, 4 bit of data, sorry, 4 bit of data will be transmitted as a 5 bit, and it will be just transmitted to the other end. From the other end, 5 bit will be reduced to 4 bit, and it will be just taking that, okay, what are all the 4 bits that you are having it with respect to it. So this is one additional bit you will be attaching it, and it will be just transmitting that particular area. So 4 block of data, it will be just receiving it. From that 5 blocks of data, it will be just transmitting, and it will be just converting, and it will be transmitting to the other end. There is no block encoding technique with respect to your 100 base T4 that is available. Line encoding technique, multi-level transmission, that is with respect to third level. With respect to base 100 base TX. 100 base FX, it is non-return to zero inversion. Non-return to zero inversion comes under your polar technique. That is what the technique that we are using it. Whereas 100 base T4, it will be using 8 block with respect to 6 T of that particular data, 6 transmission lines, it will be just converting it. 8 blocks of data or 8 bytes of data will be converted into 6 transmission lines, and it will be transmitting to that particular end. So this is nothing but your 8B slash 6T. It is the thing that we'll be using it for line encoding technique. You need to remember this particular entire table. This table will be asked in the exam more oftenly. Understood? So that's all with respect to your fast Ethernet. Next, we'll go with the gigabit Ethernet. That is 10 times more than that, whatever the 100 Mbps that we are having it, but that we got it with respect to your fast Ethernet. So 10 times more than it means nothing but your 1000 Mbps of data. That is 1 gigabit. So 1000 Mbps of data you are transmitting it. The standard that we are having is 802.3 itself. Under that 3, there are subcategories available. So you will be remembered with respect to gigabit Ethernet in 2 different standards. One is 802.3Z, another one is 802.3AB. Why AB is coming into picture? Simple thing, I'll just tell you what is the standards, how it will be just implemented. See, normally whenever you call it 802.3, from A it starts. Once it reaches to your 802.3Z, next what happens? It should start from 2 characters. You need to just take it and you need to just fulfill that particular principle. 802.3A followed by B. Similarly, 802, next one will be 802.3 C D will come into picture. It goes on until it reaches 802.3. Once it reaches to this, it will be changing. The next category will be 802.3 with respect to A, B, C. 3 particular characters in one particular group. So this is how it would be just going to implement it. So you are reaching to the end of that particular single character visibility with respect to your gigabit. So after that particular single bit characterization, you will be just going with a bunch of the bits. So with respect to this is how the representation IEEE 802.3Z followed by 802.3AB comes into picture. Okay, so under this gigabit Ethernet, there are 4 different categories available. It's a 1000 Mbps data. So 1000 Mbps data will be transmitted. So that is the one that we'll be just having it. 1000 base SX. What is this SX is all about? We'll come to know later. Don't worry about it. 1000 base LX. Next followed by 1000 base CX. Next followed by 1000 base T. See, T, we have already seen it. What is that? Twisted pair. With respect to that twisted pair, we will be using unshielded twisted pair always. So unshielded twisted pair will be having cost will be very much lower when compared to your shielded one. So that's why we'll be using unshielded itself. So T always refers to your unshielded twisted pair. With respect to that, 4 wires are required with respect to your 1000 base T type of connection or type of wire that you want to have it. So whereas with respect to your 1000 base SX means what? It's a short wave fiber. It is a fiber network. So SX and LX will be nothing but your fiber way of network that has been subcategorized, short wave followed by long wave. So what is the duration of the wave that you want to transmit it? Based on that, short wave followed by long wave will be generated. Based on that, the 1000 base SX followed by 1000 base LX will be coming into picture. X refers to how many wires that you want to have it. For time being, we may require 2 wire as more than enough to transmit it, because whenever we call it as a fiber network, at that time, 1 for transmission, 1 for receiving. So based on that, 2 wires are more than enough to have it. LX is also one and the same, but only thing is the wave format that you are having is longer format when compared to your 1000 base SX. So 1000 base CX, what is this? C is referring to a copper wires. Inside the copper wire, you will be having, inside the copper coating, you will be having STP, that is your twisted pair itself, but shielded twisted pair. The reason is the copper is there, right? So if the heat is released at that particular point of time, you will your copper wire, whatever you are having it, copper coating that you are having it, it will be just exposed to the heat that has been generated. With respect to that, your copper coating may be reacting with respect to different one, or it may just lose its entire property, and your the amount of the data that you want to travel or that you want to take it to the other particular thing may be completely changed. So just because of it, you require one more shielding with respect to your twisted pair. So this is a very costliest particular type of wires that we'll be having. It always depends on how many meters of wire that you wanted. Depending on the meter, it will be just charged with respect to any one of this particular. So yeah, the next one is with respect to your gigabit Ethernet summary. See here, with respect to this characteristic, 1000 base SX is the one that we are having it. With respect to this media that we are using is fiber shortwave format. So with respect to your 1000 base LX, we are using fiber long wave format. 1000 base CX, that is nothing but your shielded twisted pair, that is what we are using it. 1000 base T, that is nothing but your Cat5 unshielded twisted pair only we are using. How many number of wires is required? With respect to SX and LX, it is 2. With respect to your CX also it is 2. But with respect to your base T, that is nothing but your 4 wires you require it. So maximum length that it can travel. See here, with respect to your short wave, it can travel the maximum distance, 550 meter. But for your longer wave, it is 5000 meter. When compared to your shorter wave, it is much more larger distance it can travel. With respect to your copper, it is a very minimum one, that is 25 meter. The reason is the copper coating will be always catching as a good conductor of electricity. So that's because of it. So you will be just getting a particular thing, and it is also shielded with respect to it. So the shielding protects it. So larger distance it cannot travel. So because of it, 25 meters is the maximum. But with respect to your Cat5, it is 100 meters, similar to your 100 base T, whatever the scenario that we have just seen it. So the next one is block encoding. See here, your 8 block of code will be encoded as a 10 block, and it will be sent to the other end. So here, with respect to your LX is also the same thing. With respect to your CX is also, we are using the same particular scenario. But line encoding technique, so with respect to your short wave, long wave, followed by copper coating principle. With respect to that, we are using non-return to zero. That's it. Non-return to zero, you can use inverted also, or else you can go with other particular thing. So here we are going to deal with respect to your non-return to zero with respect to the polar technique. So the next one is with respect to your 100 base T, the line encoding technique that we are using is 4D PAM5. What is this PAM is called as? Pulse amplitude modulation. 4-bit data, whatever the data that we are having, that will be converted into the pulse amplitude modulation. So that pulse amplitude modulation is nothing but it will be going to happen with respect to your data that you are transmitting it. Based on that, it will be converted. So this technique will be used for your line encoding principle with respect to 1000 base T. So this table need to be remembered. Whatever the data is, that is very, very important. Next, the last one, that is your 10 gigabit and up. With respect to that, what are all the IEEE standards that we are following? That is what we are just listed over here in this particular slide. It is 802.3 AE it starts, that is AE. From that, 10 gigabit Ethernet over the fiber will be using it. AK, if you are having means 10 gigabit Ethernet over twin actual cable, that is twin actual cable is nothing but two actual cable that you will be having it with respect to your connection, whereas AN it will be referring to your 10 gigabit base T with respect to your 10 gigabit Ethernet over untwisted pair of the cabling that you will be using it. So with respect to your 802.3 BA is also there. So with respect to BA, if you are going with it at that time, 40 gigabit of Ethernet and 100 gigabit of Ethernet, you can just take care about it. So this is with respect to your what are all the standards that you are having. Based on that, what is the wire that you are using it for making the 10 gigabit or 10 giga of bit of data that you are transmitting in the channel. That ends your wired LAN. What is this wired LAN is all about? We have seen Ethernet protocol. So standard Ethernet, fast Ethernet, Ethernet protocol in that MAC layer plays a vital role. Preamble, SCF, we have seen it, right? Destination address, source address, followed by data, followed by your checksum, that is CRC will be there. So all these plays a vital role with respect to your Ethernet protocol. Once you have done that, the next one is your standard Ethernet. Under that, the minimum it will be starting with 10 Mbps of data that you get transmitted. Based on the wire, we'll be just categorizing into different categories. In the fast Ethernet, it will be much more faster than the data that we are having. So just to identify the collision where it will be happening, you need to have a bridge that is available, and you need to just categorize your entire particular category into several domains. Based on the domains, if you just work on it, it will be easier for us to identify the collision where it has been happened. So just because of it, you need to just go with it. And if you are communicating from one category to another category, use a bridge network. So that will give you a better option to identify where it went wrong. So that's all. The thing is, don't go with a very huge amount of connection that you are making it. Instead of it, split it as you can, and you can just combine it over that, and at last you will be getting the correct output. That's what it will be saying with respect to your wired LAN. Next one is wireless LAN, because in the wired LAN it cannot transmit more number of data, but in a wireless it is still more difficult to transmit it. We'll just check it out what is wireless LAN is all about. See, the moment I say wireless, it will be transmitting using the medium called as air itself. With respect to your wire, there is a physical connection that is available. With respect to your wires only, you will be connecting it. So that is a comparison that has been given over here. So architectural comparison between your wired and wireless LANs. That's what we are seeing it. Wired at the first part, second part is wireless. In the wired, wires are the medium that is used to connect it, whereas in the wireless, it is the air medium. The hosts, whichever you are using it, always connected to a network by fixed link layer addresses. That means the if you are having 4 hosts like this in this example that I have given it, this is an isolated LAN. That's what they have given it. No problem. What is that particular isolated LAN? We'll just see it later. Don't worry about it. So host 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will be having a one particular switch that is available. So these are all connected, right? So each one of it will be having a fixed link layer addresses. Linked layer addresses are nothing but the MAC addresses that is available with respect to your hosts. Whereas with respect to your host at the wireless, I'm not talking about the MAC addresses. MAC addresses will be there, but they are not physically connected among themselves. All will be at the remote places. Whereas isolated LANs, what is this? It's a set of hosts connected via a link layer switch. If you connect these particular hosts via a link layer switch, then we call it as an isolated LAN. So here the isolated LAN, how it will be just connected. Set of hosts that communicate freely with each other. So there is no access point available. There is no common point available with respect to this wireless communication. If you want to say isolated LANs at that particular point of time, we call it as one-to-one communication will happen according to its will and wish. So it will not be waiting for anybody else to interfere in that particular connection. So no access point will be there. No router, nothing. No wireless router, nothing. So only thing is it will be communicating from one host to another host. We call such a network as ad hoc network. Okay. So the next one is with respect to your wired and wireless connection to other networks using a switch. That's what you are using it. But here connection to other networks, if you want to make it, means access point will be the thing that you'll be having here. The characteristics. The characteristics of wireless is nothing but your all the you can say transmission impairment in that whatever you are having it, everything comes over here with respect to your wireless. In that, the first particular impairment that you are having is attenuation. The second one is uh, noise. The third one is nothing but your distortion. So three impairments that we'll be having in any of the network. That's what they are saying it. But attenuation is more that will be giving you the exact picture of your wireless LAN itself. The next one, the next characteristics of your wireless LAN is interfaces. Which type of interface that you are having it. So which type of wireless router, how much is the range of that particular wireless router, all those particular interfaces plays a vital role. Next one is multi-path propagation. Once you say multi-path propagation at that particular point of time, what you can say, multi-path propagation. Yes, we'll take this example itself. So your data will be moving in this particular fashion. Ultimate thing is this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Any way it can move. If you have an access point at that particular point of time, through the access point, you can just move it. Next way, once again, at that particular. So, or else you can just go with directly communicating, or else you will be having. So, multiple paths will be available. So, it is not restricted that you need to use one single path. Any path you can just go with it. That plays a vital role during the propagation of the data. Propagation is nothing but during the transmission. Error, very important thing. So signal to noise ratio will be there because noise is uh, noise is always available in the air. Noise in the sense it is not that there is some additional things available. For me, it is not needed. So that's why for somebody else that may be a particular data, but for me it is not the data that I wanted. So if I just say unwanted signals, that is nothing but your noises. So noises will be there. Signal to noise ratio, you need to calculate it. That becomes your error identification. So the next one is access control. How a wireless host can get access to the shared medium, that is your air. How it will be done? If you can remember CSMA-CA, if you can remember CSMA-CA, how it will be done with respect to your collision avoidance, that is the best example that I can give you with respect to your access control or controlled access control that you will be having with respect to your area. So I'll not touch that. So you can just go through it because we have already seen it. What is the CSMA/CA collision avoidance? In that particular point, we will be having some request to send. After request to send, we'll be sending two different particular packets. One at that particular to the actual source where the request to send data has been received from, or else we'll say that clear to send data will be sent to the both the particular parties, whoever is surrounding us. So once we get a proper communication channel in a certain amount of time, at that particular point of time, I'll be just go on communicating with respect to that particular medium, saying that I'm busy to the other medium. So then that will be going and sitting in the NAV, that is, what do you call this? NAV, network allocation vector. Network allocation vector, it will be going with the maximum value until it reaches to the zero. It will be holding in that particular area. Once it reaches to zero, then it will be leaving that particular, saying that I'm cleared, I'm free now with respect to that. That acknowledgement will be sent. Based on that, once again the transaction can be happening. So this is how will be taken care with respect to your access control. Using that, we will be need to explore these particular hidden and exposed problems in the wireless networks. What is this hidden problem or hidden station problem? See, very simple thing. There are certain stations where it has been communicating with. So B, there is no physical communication. So sorry, there is no physical connection between the systems. B is that, A is that, C is that. So there are two ranges with respect to your B, one range, and with respect to your C, there is one more range. So, but with respect to your A station, it is common to your B as well as A. Sorry, B as well as C. B and C are not in each other's range. That is, B is in a separate range, C is in a separate range, but A is in the common range. So with respect to this, both the parties, if they want to communicate with A, suppose A is having a already is involved in communicating with respect to B, then what should C should be doing? Just give you an idea. See, three stations. I'll just mention it with respect to your vertical lines. So this is station B. I'll say it. Next one is station A. Similarly, you will be having station C over here. So this is the one that we need to just analyze it. So B is also ready. C is also available to take care about your A. So, but C doesn't know when your particular conversation with respect to your B and A is going to happen. So at that particular point of time, so just to avoid the collision, what we'll be doing is we'll be just taking that particular collision avoidance principle. Okay. We'll be sending one simple this is RTS will be sent. This request to send. Now it is not necessary that C should keep quiet. So C can also be sending some particular data after receiving this from B to A. A, what it will be doing is it will be having some. It will be just sending a small signal after leaving a gap. It will transmit one signal to whichever the stations that is nearer that is available with respect to your A range. So for all those particular details, it will be sending a common data that is called as CTS. CTS is nothing but clear to send. It will be saying once your particular node or the station responds to this particular CTS after a certain amount of time, then what it will be doing is, so it will be saying that yes, for this clear to send, the data will be sent over here. Data will be sent. After sending the data, after a certain amount of time, we'll be sending the acknowledgement. The acknowledgement will be sent for both the particular parties. Clear to send, how it will be sent? No, in the similar fashion, you'll be sending the acknowledgement to both the particular ends. ACK. Similarly, here also ACK will be transmitted. So this period, whatever we are saying it, whatever we are having it, this period is nothing but it will be having the NAV. So this is how we can just solve your hidden station problem. A is hidden with respect to your B as well as from the station C. So if A is wanted to transmit with respect to B, if C is not knowing that, with that, if it transmits the data, then there is a problem. So your data will be conflicted over here. So whether A should listen to station B or station C is a problem. That is nothing but your hidden station problem. In order to avoid it, you require to know with respect to your one principle called as handshaking property. What is this handshaking property is all about? See, there are three stages to transmit the data. First is I'll be just asking the particular fellow whether are you free. If I get a response for this, if it says yes, I am free, then the actual data will be transmitted. This is called as three-way handshaking principle. For this data, once again, you need to get the acknowledgement. Without an acknowledgement, you cannot go forward. So this is how it will be working. So the same principle can be adopted to avoid your hidden station problem. See here RTS, first you are asking for it, are you free? If it is received with respect to your yes I am free, you can continue with respect to your setting the data. It will wait for a certain time because this time duration is waited because anything can happen. C also at that particular point of time can be able to transmit the data. Just because of it, it will be just holding it. If C unfortunately transmits before transmitting the data from B, then your particular B will be under the holding state. So this particular data will be discarded. It will be just holding in the NAV that is available, network allocation vector. So till it becomes 0, that is the acknowledgement has been received, you cannot continue this particular principle. So this is how it will be handling the hidden station problem with respect to your wireless. For your wired, there will be no such particular things because it will be a physical link, right? With respect to that particular physical link, it will be just giving you the answer. But with respect to your wireless, since the link is not available, there is no physical connection is available at that particular point of time, anything can happen. So just because of it, wireless under that will be just always going with the collision avoidance. Collision detection can be done with respect to your wired communication. Okay, in this wireless LAN, we have a one particular standard by the name called as 802.11. 802.11 is wireless, 802.3 is wired. So keep that in your head. It has been listed under IEEE itself. So 802.11 project. So under this, we need to just look into it. So how this particular wireless communication will going to happen. So your IEEE has defined the specifications for a wireless LAN called IEEE 802.11, which covers the, see here, we are concentrating on the physical as well as the data link layer. There is nothing like we are concentrating on the higher layers. Higher layers are ruled out. Only data link layer, physical layer, only that much. So with respect to the two type of architectures that we have, one is called as basic service set, that is BSS. Another one is called as extended service set, that is ESS. So we'll go by one with respect to your basic service set. What is this basic service set is all about? With respect to your basic service set, you have different stations that is available. If you can communicate with them each other without any particular common point, then we call it as an ad hoc network. With respect to your any one of the common point that you are having, that is the access point, we'll be saying it. So any common point if you are having it, this can be a router. See, I can give you a very simple example with this. You can have one system, one laptop, rest of it as a mobile devices, which will be communicated with respect to a common router called as the access point here. That is the access point. If you have it, then it's okay. If you are communicating from your mobile phone wirelessly, no physical connection, wirelessly through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi itself, if you are communicating from system to system, then we call it as an ad hoc network. That's it. So with respect to your extended service sets, what we'll be having is, we'll be having certain BSS that is available in one particular category. All these things, whatever the access point is that, it will be connected to a common particular channel or common particular device that is called as distributed system. From that, it will be just taken care with respect to your server. So if you combine like this, whatever the BSS with an AP is that, if you are combining more than one, and if you are having a one particular common network, with respect to that network, if you are connected to a server, then we call it as an extended service set. That's all. So with respect to your MAC layer itself, it will be just linked to. So we'll just see what is this MAC layer is all about, and physical layer, how it will be working with respect to your wireless networks. So in your wireless networks, your entire data link layer, it will be divided into two parts as we are all knowing it. One is called as link layer control, another one is called as MAC layer sub layer. And below that, we'll be having physical layer. So we'll see one by one. So this is logical link control sub layer will be there in the data link layer. Under that, it will be addressed with respect to your 802.1. So the next point is with respect to your MAC layer, we have two different functions that is available. One is point coordination function, another one is distributed coordination function. Why you require point coordination and distributed coordination? Point coordination works with respect to your ad hoc networks, point to point. Whereas distribution coordination network, it will be taken care with respect to your extended service sets. This is with respect to your BSS, that is basic service set. This is with respect to your extended service set. You can just say it. So I'll just give you an example. I'll just try to annotate this. See here, with respect to your point to point, if you are taking it at that time, it is BSS. You can just imagine without access point. AP refers to access point. Whereas distributed, if you are going with it at that particular point of time, this is ESS with a distributed network. That is what we'll be just imagine. So if you are having this particular thing at that time, contention service will be taken into consideration. Contention free service, that is without any access point, you're communicating from one point to another point. It is easy for you to address with point coordination function. So this is how it will be working. In the physical layer, see, it is with respect to the first, there are so many categories available. In this, I'll just take one by one. 802.11 FHSS, frequency hop spread spectrum. That is, your bandwidth will be spreaded according to that particular spread. It is based on the frequency that you are operating with, one particular frequency at a time, one station at a time. From that, what will be the next station? Like that, it will be just going on. This spread spectrum that we'll be using. Or 802.11 with respect to your DSSS, DSSS. You have seen this particular thing also, right? So based on your digital signals, if you are just coming with respect to it, timing diagram, we have seen it. Based on that, it will be working. So spread spectrum. The next one is 802.11 infrared will be there. Infrared is nothing but with respect to your communication from your remote device. That is, a remote will be there with respect to any one particular thing. So with respect to the television, if we are talking about, a remote will be there. You'll be pressing one particular button, it will be affected with respect to your television. It will be seen on that particular monitor, right? So that is nothing but your infrared transmission will going to happen. So that's also a wireless communication. 802.11a, if you are using it at that time, DSSS itself, you're just going with it. 802.11a, this is optical frequency domain. We are just going with it. OFDM. So you can just go with that. Next, 802.11g. These are all the different standards that you are having. So with respect to 11G, you can go with the spread spectrum itself. So that's all with respect to your MAC layers according to your IEEE standards. How the frame format will be there. Just like preamble, starting of the frame, that is how it was explained, right? In the similar fashion, what is the frame format that you are having here? See here, with respect to this 802.11 frame format, the first particular from the left hand side, if you are just moving your entire scenario at that particular point of time, FC will be there, the frame coordination point. So from this one, the next one will be a delimiter, that is D, followed by address 1, address 2, address 3, followed by a particular one thing called as SC will be there. SC, what this particular thing is. So the next one is your address 4, followed by a frame body, that is your actual data, followed by your frame check sequence will be available. What is this FC is all about? We just want to know what is this FC is all about. FC is nothing but your frame control. It's a control bit that you need to have it because of so many other particular principles that you need to follow it. It is of 2 bytes length, followed by, it will be having 11 sub fields available. What is this particular fields will be all about? Frame control, that is what they are saying it. So you need to control the whole control unit of the frame will be available with respect to your RAM, this particular category. Frame control. What are all the things that it contains? First one is the protocol version, followed by the type. What is the version? Current version that we will be using is 0 itself. The version of this particular protocol is 802.11. So what is the version of that particular protocol? Followed by the type of information, like that is whether it is used for managing the things or controlling the things or data that you are sending it. So is it manageable? Then 00 will be the value that it will be holding. If it is controlling means at that particular point of time 01. That is you are telling something, based on that you are just holding that to work on it, or else the exact data that you want to transmit it. Based on that you'll be having uh, this type field will be set it. The next one is your subtype. Subtype, whatever is available. Yeah, subtype is taking the value with respect to your request to send or clear to send control frame. So whether you are sending the data or requesting the particular station to be active for responding with respect to that particular data. So or the regular data frame that is with respect to the value has been set. So what is that particular thing that will be taken care with respect to your subtype? Whereas with respect to next one is 2DS. What is this 2DS is all about? A single bit subfield indicating whether the frame is going to the access point which coordinates the communication is centralized wireless system. That is defined later, that has been given over there, but actually what it will be doing is it is going to just check how that particular coordination will be happening with respect to the access point that it want to communicate with. Whereas from DS, the next point is from DS, it is a single bit subfield indicating whether the frame is coming from the access point or not. That is from the access, centralized access control is there, right? From that only, if it is coming or not, it will be just checking for it. The next one is your more flag or more fragments will say it. A single bit subfield, which is when set to 1, indicates that more fragments would follow. That means more number of divisions will be happening over there. Next one is retry. When set to 1 means that it is retransmitted thing. So retry is nothing but once again you need to try it from the beginning. For that, when set to 1, it means that it need to be retransmitted once again. Next one is your power management. What is your power management is all about? It is nothing but managing the power or saving the power consumption. For that, when set to 1 means that station is in the power saving mode. So more data, whenever it has been taken care at that particular point of time, when set to 1, it means that station has more data to send. It is not the one data, more data will be sent over there. The next one is WEP. What is this WEP is all about? WEP refers to your wired equivalent privacy. What is this? Encryption implementation. That is what the encryption that you are using it with respect to your principle. The last one is RSVD. That is nothing but here it is reserved for doing some other particular thing. The next one is your duration. Duration is nothing but it is a 2-bit field that specifies the time period for which the frame and its acknowledgement occupy the channel. So you need to fix a time. Based on the time, you need to reply it, right? So with respect to the communication, I told you that after sending request to send, it will be waiting for a certain amount of time. Once it receives the signal CTS, directly it will not send the data. It will wait for a certain amount of time. Once again, it will be just going for it. So for that, duration is playing a vital role. The next one is address field. So these contain source, immediate destination, and final endpoint respectively. See, address one will be the first starting point, source particular destination, source address. The next one is next intermediate address. Like that particular point, with respect to that, at last it will be just going to see with respect to your final destination party. The next one is SC. SC refers to your sequence that you are having it. So with respect to this particular sequence, why it is needed? What is the meaning of sequence over here? It's a 2-byte field that stores the frame numbers. It detects duplicate frames and determines the order of the frame for higher layers. That means If you are having some particular sequences that need to be maintained, why sequences need to be maintained? For avoiding the duplication of the frame. Frame numbers will be taken care with respect to that particular area. The next one is your data. It will be a variable size, and the data whatever you are having from the highest from the upper layer is from the network layer. It will be captured and it will be just transmitted. Last one is frame check sequence. It is just for use for error detection. Is there any error that is available over there? So the addressing mechanism, how it will be done? To DS, from DS, address 1, address 2, address 3, followed by address 4 is there, right? 4 type of addresses are there. How it will be done? So with respect to your to DS and from DS, if it is 0, 0 means destination address will be stored at the address 1. Address 2 will be holding the source address. Address 3 will be nothing but your BSS with respect to your ID. That is the first part. Second one is address 4 is not. Similarly, with respect to your 0 to 1, so that is with respect to your second point of contact. So destination will be there, sending access point will be taken into consideration, and then the source address will be pointed. 1 0, it is a different one. So receiving address point will be giving you the particular picture, followed by your source, followed by destination. So the last one, 1 1, if you are having 2 DS is also 1, from DS is also 1. If the bit is high in both the particular areas, at that time your receiving access point will come into picture, sending access point will come into picture. With respect to both the access point, destination and source will be taken into consideration. See here, case 1, case 2 is that, which is with respect to your better understanding. Case 1, with respect to this, it is 0 0. See here, B followed by A, that is your source and destination has been received. The last next point is BSS ID. That is what it will be mentioned, it will be sent. The next point is there is an access point that is available at that particular point of time. So this is one particular BSS, this is another BSS. So A is available in one BSS and B is available in another BSS. Now these two need to be communicated. There will be an access point. So from A, what it will be doing is, or sorry, from access point, what it will be doing is sending access point, it will be just taking care. Along with that, what is the destination? What is the source? So each one of the addressing, it will be just maintained with respect to it. Destination is B, so access point is AP, followed by A is the source. The next, the third particular sequence with respect to that, at the sender end itself, you are having the access point. So for that, which is the receiving access point, that is what I will be attaching it. So followed by source, followed by destination. Source is A, destination is B. The next one is wireless distribution system. With respect to this, there is an access point available at the source station as well as at the destination station. So receiver station first, that is the access point address, it will be pointed. Then the source access point station, then followed by destination, followed by the source one. This is how it will be working with respect to your addressing mechanism. So the next point, that is your Bluetooth. Okay, any doubt with respect to the topic that we have discussed? See, all these are theoretical properties. You need to know what is going to happen, what each particular field is going to deal with respect to that, what is the explanation that you want to give it. So if you can remember all these particular frame structures with respect to this, what are all the things that it will be just going to take care. See, intermediate addresses are nothing but what it is. It is nothing but the access point or the any other particular system that it is holding with. So ultimately destination address should be the first one. Next one will be the source address. So if you have the access point, first receiving access point, then source access point, followed by destination, followed by source. That is how it will be working with respect to it. So this is how it will be done. So why power management is needed for this particular 802.11 frame format? It's very simple, because you are using wireless. With respect to your wireless, you're not having the wire type of communication. Wireless through the air. So how it will be working is very important. Based on this particular power management, you can just save certain amount of power, means at that particular point of time you can communicate much longer. Otherwise there will be a problem. So that is a problem that we will be facing. So with this, we'll just continue with respect to the next topic, that is Bluetooth. So hopefully whatever I'm covering is, you can easily understand, you're getting whatever I'm explaining right now. Is it clear, or any doubts is there? If you have any doubt, you can ask, no problem. What may be the question that you will be getting in the exams or in the internals or anywhere? What type of questions you'll be getting it? So it's very simple with respect to your word. What is a standard format that you are using it? 802.3. With respect to that, what is a frame format? That is with respect to that, you need to explain it. So followed by standard Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, followed by 10 gigabit Ethernet, followed by uh, fast Ethernet. All these particular things, the table is there, right? That should be remembered. That can be asked. In the wireless, this hidden station problem, that will be asked. What is the alternate thing, or what is the solution given for hidden station problem is your handshake properties. Is CTS. First, you will be requesting to send the data. Once the data is, once that particular station says clear to send, then you will be sending the data within a small amount of time. Then actual acknowledgement will be received. Once the acknowledgement will be received, the other station will be getting an answer saying that you need to wait for a certain amount of time. This is the common rule that we'll be following it. So like this, we can just avoid the collision that will be happening with respect to your transmission during in the wireless networks. Okay, so that is the one thing that you may get it. And the next part is the frame structure. You may be asked to explain it. So with that, we'll just move on to the next one. Is it audible, or anything? Any clarifications need to be? If you want it, means I'm here to explain it. Any doubt? Any doubt regarding the topics that we have covered today? Wireless communication. Last topic is there under the wireless technology, that is Bluetooth. Okay. Very simple thing. Next one is Bluetooth. So this is also a wireless technology, but this is called as ad hoc networks. What do you mean by ad hoc networks? Spontaneously, you will be just forming the network over there. See, what is the thing? You all have used the Bluetooth uh, devices, right? Your mobile phone is the best example that I can give you, where your Bluetooth hardware is available over there. What is the how the function will be going to happen? Can anybody explain it? If I want to communicate from one mobile to another mobile for either transmitting the data or anything else, whatever it may be, what is the procedure? You're saying that you're knowing something about Bluetooth, right? Or Have you used it first of all? Tell me, have you used a Bluetooth way of communication? Okay, fine. If you have used it, you just can explain it, right? Okay, Ranjana, can you explain it? I'll just unmute you. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. Go on.
Sir, transferring of files from one phone to another phone, that is
Okay,
mobile phone.
okay,
Use
fine.
Bluetooth.
Okay, fine. How the communication happens? What is the first step that you will be just taking care?
Acknowledgement. If one device wants to send, means it should request other device to receive the files.
How?
Uh,
Whatever you said
it
is
gives.
absolutely right. But my question is how the communication happens. What is the first step? Step by step, you just explain me. If you know what, you explain me. Otherwise, no problem. I'm here to explain it.
It searches the nearby devices. Is there any
Absolutely,
device?
absolutely correct. Yeah, you're on the track. Yes,
We have to first pair the device.
you need to. Oh, I'll just unmute, ma'am. Sorry. Yeah, Ranjana, you can go ahead now.
Sir, we will search in the area surrounding us. Is there any device
Yes,
which is having the Bluetooth connection?
yes.
Uh, and we um, request the device to accept. That is, we pay the device.
How will you pair the device? That is what I'm just asking you.
Sir, I don't know about that one.
Okay, fine. No problem. I'll just try to explain it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your answer. Yeah, absolutely right what she told. But only one particular thing that we need to just know it is a code will be generated automatically between both the particular parties, whoever want to communicate and who want to receive the messages. A common code will be generated between both the parties. Using that particular code only, you can communicate. It can be in terms of numbers and can in terms of hexadecimal values, whatever it may be. So it will be just giving you one particular type of code, maybe 4-bit or 8-bit. It purely depends on which particular Bluetooth version that you are using with. So based on that, you'll be just trying to pair it. First, you're trying to access or you're just trying to check out what are all the nearby devices that you can detect with respect to the Bluetooth itself with the same version. Keep that in your head. If the version is different, then you cannot communicate. I don't know exactly how many of you have used this Bluetooth technology because most of you are very familiar with respect to your Wi-Fi technology. When compared to your Bluetooth, it gives a better result. So always you go for Wi-Fi. Don't worry about that. We'll just come to that later. Bluetooth actually it will be transmitting bit by bit transmission. The reason why most of us will hate using your Bluetooth technology is bit by bit transmission will happen. What is this bit by bit transmission? Okay, I'll give you a simple example. If I want to transmit or if I want to transfer an image of the size 100 bytes, 100 bytes, what is the amount of time that you will be having or you will be noting when you are using the Bluetooth technology, when you are using the Wi-Fi technology. With respect to your Bluetooth technology, the time taken will be more because 100 byte of one particular image you want to transmit means each time one bit at a time. If you are just transmitting means 100 bytes is there. 100 bytes is 100 into 8 is 800 bits are there. One bit at a time. 800 seconds you need to have it. With respect to your Wi-Fi, it is not the case. If the entire particular 100 bytes will be divided into several blocks, each block will be transmitted separately. So instead of bits, it is byte way or block transmission will happen. So it will save your time. You can transmit multiple data at a time. Whereas with respect to Bluetooth, one data, if it is required for transmission, means once it finishes all those particular transmission, the remaining particular data need to wait. Say for example, 100 byte, one image. Similarly, you may have 1,000 images to be transmitted. So each one will be taking the same amount of time. Whereas with respect to your Wi-Fi, that is wireless fidelity, it is not the case. So all those particular things will be scheduled into a single unit of time. Maybe with respect to that, all the 100 bytes, not at a time, but maybe less than the half the minute that whatever your Bluetooth transmission will be taking. So that is how it will be just uh, designed for. Why it is used for, what for it is designed, Bluetooth, as your friend said, for transferring the files or any types of files, textual, images, videos, anything for transferring from one system to another system. The system can be a end system, can be a mobile phone, can be a laptop, can be a desktop, anything it can be. So that's how that's what it will be there. So what are all the things that we'll be just discussing here? We are discussing here the architecture of the Bluetooth, what are all the layers that it will be having, the baseband layer, that is if it supports with respect to your Bluetooth layer, and the last one is L2 cap. This is very, very important to know. So what is this L2 cap is all about? We'll just see one by one. Bluetooth architecture. What is this Bluetooth architecture is all about? So here, with respect to your Bluetooth architecture, we have two different types of architecture. One is called as Piconet, another one is called as Scatternet. What is a Piconet? What is a Scatternet? In the Piconet, what it will be having is one person will be the superior one, that is a master, and remaining all will be the receiver one. So that is nothing but your secondary devices, we'll call it as. Not the receivers, we'll call it as a secondary devices. So primary is nothing but the master. One simple node is that by the name called as master. Remaining all these particular things, whatever is available, the secondary that has been named, right? So this is nothing but your receivers. Okay, so this is nothing but your Piconet, will say it, one type of network. So in the similar manner, if you have n number of primary, in that particular secondary, whatever is that, if it becomes primary at that particular point of time, primary is nothing but who will be sending the data, secondary or receiving the data. So any number of person can be a primary or a secondary. So if the person is receiving some particular data, then he will be the secondary. If the person who will be sending the data is nothing but your primary, who initiates the connection, so that will be the master node. If like that n number of such particular things will be happening, then we call it as a scatternet. That's all with respect to your Piconet and scatternet. Yes, this is very, very important to know. What is your Bluetooth layers is all about. This particular entire Bluetooth layer is having several categories. One is with respect to your applications. The middle layer is very, very important to know. The second layer is nothing but your baseband layer. The third layer is radio layer. So three layers are very, very important to have a note on it. One is called as L2 cap. The second one is baseband layer. The third one is radio layer. What is this L2 cap and baseband layer is all about? What does this L2 cap means? That is very, very important to know. It is called as logical link control and adaptation layer. That is what you call as L2 cap. What for it is used? Logical link control and adaptation layer protocol, that is what it is called as, and it will be sitting over the baseband layer. That is what it is saying. Yes, absolutely correct. So the third one is why this is needed. This provides us to check whether it is a connection oriented or connectionless data services is being offered from the upper layers with protocol multiplexing capability, segmentation, reassembly, followed by group abstractions. So a lot of things are there. One by one, we need to just check out. So what is this L2 cap is all about? L2 cap refers to your logical link control adaptation layer. What is this logical link control adaptation layer is all about? So it is based on your from the upper layer whether the connection oriented or connectionless, that will be decided. Once that has been taken into consideration, that is whether it is connection oriented or connectionless, that is TCP type of protocol that is going to happen or UDP type of protocol that is going to happen. Once it is done, the next thing is after the data services that you are receiving it, the next one is protocol multiplexing capability. Why multiplexing is needed? Because you need to just utilize the whole channel, right? How can you utilize the whole channel? That is very, very important to know. After that, the segmentation and reassembly. So you cannot send the data directly, one bit at a time. I have told you to transmit. So how that particular segmentation need to be done, whether it is 1 bit, 2 bits or 3 bits, depending on that particular connection and connection oriented, we need to just decide. That protocol will give you the exact picture. And then how this particular reassembly operation works, that is after segmentation at the other end, it need to be reassembled. How that particular thing works, and followed by your group abstractions, how that particular group will be taken into consideration. All these features are nothing but it will be handled by your L2 cap. Whereas your next layer, that is your baseband layer. Next one is your baseband layer, right? So baseband layer, the name itself suggests that it is it is holding that particular signal strength. So it will be available in the physical layer as per your Bluetooth channel is available. It manages physical channels and the links apart from other services like error correction, hop selection, and the security that is going to happen with respect to your Bluetooth. Security will be taken into consideration, followed by error correction will be taken into consideration, followed by hop selection. It is one particular system to another. The next particular device, which one is that? That will be taken care with respect to your baseband. The last what is your radio layer. What this radio layer is all about? Radio layer is the lowest defined layer of the Bluetooth specification. It defines the requirements of the Bluetooth transceiver device. What is this transceiver device is all about? Your L2 cap will be giving you a picture whether it is a connection oriented or connectionless, segmentation, reassembly, everything will be taken care with respect to your L2 cap. The next one is with respect to your baseband layer. It will be nothing but it will be just going to check with respect to the error correction, hop selection, followed by the security that will be taken care with respect to your Bluetooth. The last part is your radio layer. This will be taken care with respect to your transceivers. Transceivers is nothing but transmission followed by receiving the signals. Both the things will be happening with respect to your radio layers. For that, radio stations we require to have it. Radio signals will be taken into consideration. So which type of transceivers that you want to have it, based on that, it will be just using that. Next one is Bluetooth layers. With respect to that, which uses TDMA technique. Why it uses TDMA technique? Why can't it use FDMA? See, it is a baseband. Baseband always is nothing but it's a digital signal. Once it is a digital signal, it need to go with time division multiple access. Time division multiple access, what it is saying, it will be dividing the entire frequency into slots, time slots. Based on the time slots, you will be just sending the data from one end to another. For the data that has been sent from the primary, acknowledgement will be written back. Same thing, it need to happen. Multiple secondary communication, if you want to go with that means, yes, it can be done. So once it finishes off with respect to your first particular secondary device, the second communication can take care. Otherwise, it need to wait. That is what it will be doing with respect to your Bluetooth. So any doubt with respect to your Bluetooth technology? Once again, I'll recap it. See, your Bluetooth, in this particular Bluetooth, you will be having architecture. The architecture is of two types. One is Piconet, another one is Scatternet. In the Piconet, one master will be there, n number of secondary nodes or the receiver nodes will be available. If that particular receiver node, one of the receiver node becomes a master node for one more particular transmission, means then we'll be calling it as a Scatternet. Understanding it? That is the architecture that we are having it. So with respect to your Bluetooth layers, mainly it will be divided into three different categories. One is called as L2 cap, that is logical link, that is L2. L2 refers to logical link, L instead of it L2, that is what they have given it. C refers to your control, A refers to your adaptation, P refers to your protocol. So logical link control adaptation protocol, control and adaptation protocol. So that is what the layer that it is having. What for it is used? What is that particular thing? Meaning of that particular control and adaptation? It will be just taking care about from the higher layer, from that particular above layer, that is from the application layer, whether it is a connection oriented or connectionless services you need to offer it. That is what the important thing that it will be just taking care. Then the segmentation followed by the reassembly, how it need to be done. Group, how that particular group abstraction can be done. So all these things will be the role that it will be handled by your L2 cap. Baseband layer, it will be taking care about error correction. That is a thing. It will be available in the physical layer. Your baseband layer is available in the physical layer. In that particular thing, hop selection, error correction will be the important roles or characteristics that it will be holding with respect to your baseband transmission. Once it says baseband, it is a digital data that you are concentrating with. Keep that in your head. The next one is your radio layer. Radio layer, it will be just selecting the transceiver that you want to have it. How many transmitter that you want to have it, or how many transceiver that you want to have it, how fast it will be done. So based on that, it will be chosen by your radio signals that you are just having it. So based on that, whether it is in the transmission mode or the receiver mode, that will be taken care with respect to radio layer. So that's all with respect to this. Bluetooth layers under that baseband layer uses always TDMA. Why it is TDMA? You may be having a question once, because baseband refers to digital signals. So that's why. So see here, with respect to your multiple secondary communication, if you want to have it, first once it finishes, say for example, if I take I have node 1, which is the master node. Similarly, node 2, which is the secondary node. Similarly, I may have node 3, which is the secondary node itself. Suppose your master node will be connected with respect to your secondary node, that is node 2. See, your master can communicate with respect to your node 1 as well as node 2. Understanding it? So first, before finishing the task, first your node 2 is connected, means node 2 should finish off entire particular task. Once it is finished, then only you can go with the communication with respect to the secondary node, node 3. Otherwise, you need to keep on waiting until it finishes the job. So that is the drawback of your Bluetooth technology. So until and unless it finishes its complete task, it is not given to the rest of the parties. So that is the only disadvantage that we have with respect to your Bluetooth. I hope we can stop here. So one more terminology is there, or technology is there, by the name called as cellular telephony. If we just see that, that will be the end of your 5th module. Now, I'm ready to take any questions from your end. If you have, you can just take those particular questions, or else we can just wind up the class. Hardly 6 slides are there with respect to your cellular telephony. So if you give me the permission, if so that if I can continue, then also I can just continue with respect to this. No, we'll just see this particular telephony in the next class itself. Don't worry. Yeah. Any doubt? If you have any doubt, you can ask. Am I audible to all of you? Hello? Okay, I'm audible. Fine. So, no doubt is that one person is replying. Yes, Tasmia, you have some doubt? No doubt. See, this is a theoretical part. So, until and unless you won't read it, you may be saying that yes, right now it is all easy, you can remember it, but lot of things, lot of efforts need to be uh, you need to put lot of effort to remember all these particular frame formats. For that, what I can suggest you is write all the frame formats in one particular piece of paper with the heading, with the proper heading, what that particular frame structure is all about. Don't worry about the contents of that particular frame. Just try to recall what that particular frame structure is. Based on that, you try to imagine, or you try to just explain that particular frame structure. If you have it in one particular piece of paper, it will be easy for you to remember it. Almost all the frame structure will be having the error control sequences, maybe CRC, maybe FCS, or maybe some other particular thing. So that's why better you just write all these frame formats in a single piece of paper and get it ready. So day before the exam, just glance it, just go through it. It will be giving you the correct picture. And with respect to your wired LAN, you'll be getting one simple question, that is how your fast Ethernet will be working, gigabit Ethernet will be working with respect to the comparison table. You need to explain it. Easily you can explain that particular topic also. Cellular telephony or Bluetooth, any one, they will ask you to explain it. So Bluetooth, all these, that is right from the architecture, the layer, followed by your transmission, how it will be happening. So baseband layer followed by radio layer followed by L2 cap is very, very important with respect to your Bluetooth. So these are all the common things or common questions you will be always getting in the exam with respect to the topic that we have discussed right now. So thank you very much for your patience listening. So tomorrow morning, if you are free, you just try to give me a call in the morning. I'll just continue with respect to your cellular telephony. Tomorrow is the last class. So after that, we'll check out if the classes are needed or not. So, but tomorrow will be the last class, that is wireless networks according to what cellular telephony. If I explain it, that will be the last topic. Maybe hardly half an hour or 25 minutes is required to explain it. So morning at what time you'll be free, you just give me a call so that we can just continue our particular session. Thank you very much for your patience listening. So thinking that whatever I delivered today is reached to you. So good luck for your lab exams, lab internals, as well as for your main exam. Thank you. Bye.